Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday. Also, welcome back to Acne Beautiful. I've been away for a few weeks, and I really do feel like I'm in the dog days of summer now. Thank goodness the heat has calmed down a little bit. I know I've told you guys before, I'm not a huge fan of the heat, but I am getting used to it. And other than that, I was on vacation, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I've been up to over the past few weeks, and then we're going to dive into the introduction or part one of grains, and basically grains and how they can affect acne. So great to be back. I really do feel like I'm in the dog days of summer now. It is sort of the end. I'm starting to feel that transition to September, to the fall. My birthday's in the beginning of September. It always sort of signifies, well, it signifies, change for everybody, the start of the school season. This year is a little different. I'm just kind of wondering how everyone's feeling, how everyone's sitting with the current situation with coronavirus. As far as my world is concerned, it's you can see the normalcy setting in terms of just the masks. And I was away, like I said, on a vacation for 2 weeks, so I had my mask on a lot more than usual because I was out and about. I wasn't up in the apartment working away. That's the other thing. Like, I'm on this crazy path with my mom right now to finish this barn apartment renovation, and we are so close and it's looking so good, and she's going to New York on the 15th, so we are just pushing to get this done. And if we finish it on the 15th or 14th, whenever she's leaving, right around there, then the project will have taken us a total of 6 months. And that's good. I don't want to go longer than that. It's time for the next phase. It's time to rent it out. I have other things to focus on as far as work is concerned as well. So I'm really excited for autumn. Yeah, it's right around the corner. Lots of new things. I know the election is right around the corner as well, and that is going to be a really interesting time. So hang in there, guys. And if acne is something that you are working on right now, despite everything else going on in the world, if your skin is a priority for you, and you are interested in learning more, then stay tuned, because like I said, we're just getting going. This is video number 11, and I'm coming back with a renewed sense of energy, a renewed sense of mission and self. I spent a lot of my time away. I was in the mountains in Colorado and Santa Fe, and it was the first time, it was really the first time since coronavirus started, since I was back in Santa Fe, living there. So it was the first time that I got really quiet in nature again. And what I found, what I discovered, was that all of these great plans I had for my vacation, which didn't really involve going to a lot of places because there wasn't a whole lot to go and see and do right now, but it did involve me doing a lot of personal work. I wanted to write a lot. I wanted to work on Acne Beautiful a lot. I was going to make some videos for Acne Beautiful. And I just wanted to be quiet and sit in nature. And I took a lot of naps, and a lot of my meditations just turned into naps. I was tired. And I consumed a lot. I consumed a lot of food, really, really, really good food. A lot of times when we go on our vacations, we come home and we're like, oh, yeah, I ate really bad food. I ate really healthy, wonderful food. If anything, I had a little bit more wine than my body prefers me to have. How much wine is too much wine is all relative to an extent, but my levels are kind of low, so I had consistent drinks every night, and that left me feeling tired. Ooh, I feel like I didn't want to go into that. Let's change the direction. Anyway, we all have our moments, our vacation moments and such. But the other thing that happened for me during my really wonderful vacation was I got to experience some beautiful hot springs. I relaxed, I read. So it was like sleeping, reading, eating, being quiet in nature, watching the birds, soaking in hot springs. And I did exercise, just not that much, but I did exercise. Actually, I exercised quite a bit. So I was hiking, I was running, I did some yoga, I did some other stuff. So I had a really good time. And there was one, oh yeah, this is kind of, takes me forever to say things, guys, right? But the last thing I wanted to say, which I'm hoping, you know, just will kind of help tie into some of the emotional things that I talk about with Acne Beautiful. This is just a personal story, a little bit into my life, but a lot of old emotions came up for me while I was away, and it wasn't necessarily super conscious feelings or thoughts, but because I am very tuned in to my emotional body and old patterns of being and thinking versus, you know, different ways of being that I've embraced in my life, I can I can, you know, if I'm in an awake state, I'll say to myself, oh, you know, this is like an older pattern I'm seeing from myself, an older emotion. And I had to spend a little bit of time confronting my recent relationship of almost 7 years. So I had to go and see this person's old partner, Alan Jameson, who's such a wonderful heart and person, and I adore. You know, we spent a lot of time together, and I had to go pick up a couple things, and so we got to chatting, and ever since that night, I've had a lot of old emotions come flooding back, and I know that they're old emotions. It's an old self, and it doesn't mean, you know, I need to be with this person again, and we need to get back together, or we missed the boat on something. And this whole idea of, did you make the right decision or not? That question is so, just that question bothers me because it's very hard to answer. It's impossible to answer because you never know if you made the right decision or not. But you made the decision that needed to be made in the moment, and now you're on a different path, and you're moving forward, and you can, you know, recognize the old emotions. You don't have to push away the memory as it comes or the feeling. You know, just be aware of it, which is what I was trying to do for myself. And then maybe I would just embrace it for a moment and then even release it. But it's amazing to me just how many flashes have been coming back to me. Just little snippets, you know, little memories of time together. Oh no, I'm gonna get emotional. And being aware. I've said that a lot. I didn't want to cry. So, okay, what do I want to say? Right. Okay. Having that quiet space, that quiet time to observe these emotions and not feel attached to them and not be taken down by them and feel like I had to take action on them. No sense of urgency or surrounding them, just observing them and then trying to release them, and even enjoying them. They're beautiful memories, but it allowed me to recognize when I was in that old self. And in that moment, I was able to choose how long I wanted to remain in that old self, which in that place there's really only a memory of an old emotion, of an old self, an old pattern of being, but there's no space for your new self. There's no space there for you to create in. So it doesn't serve us to stay in that space. And when I speak about old habit patterns and old ways of thinking in some of the earlier videos, it's tied into these emotional experiences that we have related to old memories. And what happens, it doesn't have to be as emotional, as big as like a breakup of a relationship, but what happens is we get stuck in that timeline and we can't move forward as easily in that space. So when we are able to recognize that you're in that moment, you can not only appreciate that moment, but you can realize that it's that, hey, this is my, power of now, so to speak. I can make a choice in this moment to begin to experience something new moving forward, so that you can begin creating new things for yourself. New ways of thinking, new ways of being, new ways of feeling, and then your own new physical space. So what was happening was I was vacillating between these old memories, and they were going back to 7 years ago. They were going back to the very beginning of our relationship. And then the new memories, the new places, the new things that I'm creating now in this new physical space, and the excitement there. And what was really beautiful about that experience is that I was able to direct it with more ease than sometimes in the past. So I was able to move from that old to the new energy with more ease. This is so important in so many things that we do. And when we think about our skin and healing your skin from within, you have to apply a lot of these concepts likewise, because if you've struggled with acne for a long time, it's been part of your pattern of thinking, your sense of self, your identity, and it's tied up and consumed by old emotions as well. And this is all essentially in the past. Even though you feel it's present with you right now, it's old versions of yourself. It's really in the past. It's nothing, the future hasn't yet been decided. So you're kind of, essentially living in the past, dragging that past along. And when we're in that state, when we're living from that state, our mind is stuck in the body, right? And we have to help release the mind from the body in order to move into that new place of potential. Okay, the other thing that is experienced, like for myself, when I was really staying in that place of the old emotions, and I wasn't lingering too long, but I was really aware of how I could get sucked right back in. And then you employ old patterns of being too. And you're like, why am I doing this right now? This is, not even fulfilling me. There's chemical reactions going on inside your body as well. And you have this entire diminished sort of field around your body where you start feeling super disconnected. And this is, again, probably not a conscious thought, but if you can consciously tap into this and you start saying to yourself, oh, I'm feeling disconnected, rather than, I just don't know why I'm feeling this way or that way. You're not plugged in, and I know the difference that I feel when I'm plugged in and when I'm not plugged in. Just saying, that's just the thing that came to my head right now, plugged in, not plugged in. But seriously. So when you feel that disconnect, when we're like disconnected and we're stuck in these old emotions and the old ways of being and thinking, and just anywho, we're disconnected from the power of ourself. We're disconnected from our vibrance, from our sense of joy and curiosity and energy, and just general ability to think freely, and feel freely without being consumed by the body. It was, you can maybe see why my experience in nature on my vacation was a lot more introspective than I anticipated it to be, because once I got quiet, all of these things that I haven't quite processed yet came up to the surface. I mean, I've spent the last 5.5 months, ever since I left, moved away from Santa Fe and my relationship did end. I spent the last 5.5 months totally consumed by a physical project and other work, to make money, and my other passions, such as this, and exercising, and meditating, and everything else that we do in our lives that keep us busy and distracted. And they're not bad distractions. They're just literally distracting us from what else is there. So breath, we all know, is super important to help move us through our body and help us pull the mind out of the body and really free that energy again so that we can move forward with creating, with our curiosity, with that natural sense of joy. It's the things that we see in children. They're just, out there. I always picture the child that's frolicking through the fields of daisies. They're just like boundless with joy and curiosity, and I don't think that's an impossible way to live as an adult. And I've experienced those days time and time again, more and more and more frequently, as I get older and older and older. They're not just like here and there out of my control, like, oh, I had a great day. No, like more of those days are like that. And so when I'm not having those days, I don't just say like, oh man, this sucks. It's like, okay, what's going on? What's going on with me? Like, what do I have to kind of look at and get quiet with? So this is important too. You don't have to know exactly why you're feeling something to release it. Thank goodness for that. You simply need to have your awareness, once again, that you're feeling an old way. Recognizing old emotions and old ways of thinking and being, once again. So these are wrapped up in our habits a lot of the time. So knowing that is also really important, because then you don't have to fight with your mind to say, well, I don't understand why I'm feeling this way, or what is it that I have to release? You don't have to always make sense of it for your body mind to make sense of it and release it. So it's really good to know that. And that's actually a theory that's encompassed in something called network chiropractic, which is a special form of chiropractic care. It's really fascinating and something that I've worked with for a long time and absolutely adore. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get to grains in this video, but as you feel your old self with acne, even as you sit there still having acne right now, you need to use your breath. I really want you to think about this. If you're in an active place where you want to change your situation with acne for the long haul, then I really want you to think about employing all of these concepts that I talk about, really dabbling in them. The energetic stuff more than the food. I want to take that back, like just as much as the food. I don't want to say one thing more than the other, but getting the solid foundation of the energetic stuff is so crucial, because it's not hard to be told, eat this, eat that, and then eat it. But it is really challenging to come back to yourself day after day after day after day and say, how did I do today? Where did I fall short today? What could I have done better? And it's not your actions, it's your thoughts and the emotions, because then comes the actions after that. So it's like every day working on the deep self, which is challenging. So that's why I really hammer this stuff in now, and give you guys my own personal experiences just with the day-to-day life, because none of this is unique. You know, we all go through this. So I want you to think about, practice, use your breath to move your mind from that body, so that you can begin releasing old emotions that are stored in your body related to your situation with acne. And some of those emotions and feelings are going to be super similar between anybody who's experienced chronic acne, and some of them are going to be super unique to you. And some of those emotions may be things like shame or even guilt, or feelings of I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve, or why me, or I'm not pretty, I'm not handsome, this will never change for me, and nothing I do works. Gosh, things of that nature, and then so many more. So there could be some things that are even more personalized to you. Whatever thought comes to mind, whatever feeling it is, just go with it. There's nothing is wrong. Okay, nothing is wrong. There are no wrong answers. All you're doing is releasing something. And even once you're aware of it, then you have that power to say whether or not you want to keep it or not. The decision is always up to you. But you have, the great thing is by having your awareness, by unlocking something, it gives you the opportunity to see something, hold it, and then say, what am I going to do with this now? Do I want this? Is this part of me? Do I want to own this? Okay. Enough about my vacation. So that was my vacation. I also, what else did I do? I drove a lot. So while I was driving, I was listening to cool podcasts. I was looking at the mountains. It was just beautiful, so beautiful. I breathed a lot. Like, I just sat there and I breathed in all of the beautiful, crisp mountain air. And I visited with my wonderful aunts and uncle in Colorado. So that's it. And let's move on. 22 minutes in. Okay, so I want to get into grains. It's the last portion of the plate that we need to discuss. After I talk about grains, I'm going to start diving deeper into not only all of the foods that we've already talked about, but then specific food groups, get a little bit more specific on some things. Then I'll get into some vitamins, and then the minerals, and then the antioxidants, and we'll go into topicals. I mean, I don't really know that I want to keep everything sort of in order, because honestly, I try and say, this is what I'm going to talk about on this day, but then something else comes in. And honestly, I have to talk about what is coming in, because that is really where the energy is at. I can't force it. So that's not to say I'm going to be all over the place. I like to have structure and organization to things. So at the very least, let me just introduce grains today. Grains is going to be like a part 1 and a part 2 anyway. And I will just kind of kick it off. Like I said, last portion of the plate that we need to fill, but we don't need it. We don't really need it. So if you have your plate, and you've got your protein about the size of your palm, and then we have a little bit of healthy fat and some portions sprinkled around, however it is. Maybe you cooked your food in your fat, or you added the fat afterwards. It might be avocado, who knows. And then half of your plate with vegetables. Woo! Could be a combination of cooked vegetables and raw vegetables. And then we have our fruit, and you may have had that before your meal, or you're going to have that after your meal, but you're probably not going to have it with your meal. And I wouldn't recommend you having it with your meal either. So with that plate right there alone, just your vegetables and your protein and your healthy fats, that's perfectly fine. You've got a great meal there. And when I say vegetables, Okay, what comes to mind? We're all thinking just a pile of green stuff. There's so many vegetables, so you could have some squash, sweet potato, and some kale, bok choy, and onion, all on the same plate. So you're really getting an array of vegetables, and you're getting some starchy vegetables too with the squash and sweet potato. So right there, you've already eliminated any potential need that you would have even had for a grain, because you are getting that carbohydrate from the starchier vegetables. In fact, you're getting carbohydrate from your green vegetables as well, just not as much as you would from a starchy vegetable or a grain. Now, why do we eat the grains anyway? Typically, we're eating the grains because it's a good, easy source of energy. The grains break down into glucose very rapidly, and glucose is a preferred source of energy for our brain, for our muscles. It's very easily accessible, and it's stored in the liver, it's stored in our muscles as glycogen, and it's available. You think of people who are runners, they're carbo loading. It's debatable by many groups how useful and necessary carbohydrates are, and the kind of carbohydrates that you consume. So for me, in relation to acne, and for you guys, the main things that we want to look at and think about when it comes to grains and acne is, for one thing, what's your energy level? I mean, what are your energy demands? If you're extremely physical and you exercise a lot, you're running, you're doing other things that are high intensity. Maybe you have a job where you're literally on your feet all day long, and you're just, at a steady kind of moderate pace all day long, just using calories, burning calories. You may have a little bit more of a carbohydrate demand, but that still doesn't mean that you have to eat grains to meet that carbohydrate demand. Like I just said, if you're going to eat some squash, some sweet potato, you're going to get carbohydrates right there. Likewise, if you eat an apple, you're going to have a good source of carbohydrate, more than you would get if you're eating a piece of broccoli, because the carbohydrate from the apple, is sweeter than your broccoli. It has more sugar in it. So, it's going to break down into usable fuel, glycogen, pretty quickly. And your apple has the fiber. We talked about that with fruit. So it does slow down the absorption of glucose a little bit. So it's definitely a better option than eating a candy bar or a cookie, or even a bowl of white rice, or a piece of toast, or a bagel, or a piece of pizza. Why? Because the carbohydrates from these grains, for the most part, don't have as much fiber and other nutrients in general to offer us. So they don't have the fiber to slow down the absorption of the glucose, and they don't have as many other nutrients to offer us for the benefits of our health. So it's debatable, why to include them if you have so many other choices already that are more nutrient dense to begin with. And when you are working on healing a chronic condition, especially acne, including acne, we're looking for nutrient dense foods. Everything that we put in our mouths, we really want to be nutrient dense, because we are missing some essential nutrients, or we're not getting them the way we should be, or something is happening inside that we need to assist in order to make sure everything is operating at homeostasis. Otherwise, we really wouldn't be having the skin breakouts to begin with. That doesn't mean that certain other outside circumstances won't influence your skin from time to time. It's like you go, you move to a new place and you're experiencing just some stress and different water, or you're on vacation and you're flying because you're in using the airport. So there's just a lot of environmental stressors that we come up against too, that certainly can and do aggravate acne prone skin, which can also be very sensitive skin. But that's another story altogether. In this case, we're really just focusing on the nutrients that we're looking to get from our foods to help support our skin's health to the best of our ability. That being said, this is a slight overview of grains, and while I've mentioned that they're lower in nutrients than other foods, you may say, like, what does that mean? There's a couple of different reasons. For one thing, grains, a lot of different grains, and some nuts and seeds too, have what's called phytates, and these are also referred to as anti-nutrients, but they bind to the available nutrients in the food, the different minerals, and essentially render them useless because our bodies then can't separate the minerals from the phytates. So essentially they pass right through, and we don't get the benefits of them. This is why you'll see trends of sprouting. I say trends because it's become a trend, even though these are ancient practices. But sprouting your grains, the raw food movement, which was a lot more prevalent in the past, but it's still going strong. That really takes it to another level where you're soaking and sprouting, and then in addition to that, you're not heating or treating anything over 118 degrees, so you're keeping intact all of the enzymes as well, which help break down and digest our food. So again, this is why, like I always say, if you're getting half your plate full of vegetables, there's no reason why you can't do a combination of raw and cooked. It's going to benefit your digestion in more ways that way. And then if your vegetables are fresh from your garden too, even better, because now you're getting a bunch of different microorganisms from those vegetables as well. Plus those nutrients are at their peak because you're picking them and eating them right then and there, and you know what you put in your garden too, hopefully. But you're getting those different microorganisms as well, which are going to help feed the bacteria that are already in your gut, creating a more happy biosphere, creating a happier environment in your gut on a whole. And the gut health, super linked to our skin health as well. Another great topic that we will get into. So really, grains, we're going to get a little bit deeper, but the essentials of grains are that, for one thing, we don't really need a lot of them for our energy requirements. Sure, they taste good. They do pose an issue as far as nutrient absorption because of anti-nutrients like phytates. Because they don't contain a lot of things to help slow down the absorption of the glucose into our bloodstream, they tend to raise our blood sugar rather quickly. Now, of course, if you have like a brown rice or a whole grain bread, it's a little bit different than a product that's doesn't have those fibrous grains in them. But for argument's sake, we're just going to kind of put it all in there together. Which can raise our blood sugar really quickly, and having a blood sugar spike, having a spike in your blood sugar is really, really quite detrimental to acne sufferers for a number of reasons. It does come back to inflammation, and the blood sugar, the blood sugar roller coaster that we ride all day long a lot of the times is another topic that we have to discuss in relation to acne. In fact, it's something that is related to almost every, condition that we experience in our day-to-day lives. Getting your blood sugar under control can improve so many things, regardless if it's a chronic condition or just your general energy and mood. So that is another video in and of itself, and I will get there too. But just to kind of wrap up grains for today, guys, I'm just going to say a few more things, and I'm just going to pull the plug on this one, and we'll jump back in tomorrow with grains part 2 and how to incorporate them in your diet if you want to eat them and you do suffer from acne. One more thing about grains, and I will talk a little bit more about this tomorrow too, but any grains that are not gluten-free, so basically grains with gluten in them, pose their own issues, threats with acne, and that is again related to digestion and leaky gut syndrome, and we're going to tie that in. And in fact, I'll tie that in grains part 2 because it will take a few minutes to break that down. Okay, so if you're thinking about grains and you're saying, what about the gluten, the wheat connection, and acne? Absolutely, we're going to touch on that too. And then we're going to dive deeper into gluten and acne going down the road, because that is a beast also. And it doesn't affect everybody, but it does affect a lot of people who suffer from acne. So enough being said, you know, as agriculture grew and staples like corn and wheat began to replace foods in our diets, like a sit-down breakfast with some eggs and some bacon and maybe some spinach, a little bit of fruit, we began to have these quick carbohydrate breakfasts, sugar-laden cereals, pastries, boxed foods, convenience foods alike, frozen meals. People are eating their breakfast on the go, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These are made of refined carbohydrates. So we're taking, you know, something that looked like a beautiful stalk of wheat at one point, but then you've removed all of the fiber from it. You've really stripped it, broken it down, and bleached it, and now it's just this blood sugar spiking, you know, white flour. So these convenience foods made of refined carbohydrates and poor oils, back to those healthy fats, poor oils and sugar, low quality, low nutrient foods. They're not satiating, and they're certainly not blood sugar friendly. They're definitely not acne friendly. And this is the essence, the problem with grains in and of itself. And it's a big reason why, you know, if acne's just been with you throughout your life, you may want to consider significantly reducing and eliminating grains, at least for a while. Going gluten-free for sure, but they're just, you know, it's just not worth the hassle, in my opinion. If you suffer from acne and it's really just plagued you for years, the grains are just not worth the hassle. Do I eat grains? Great question. You know my story by now. Acne, I have suffered from acne for a long time. And even after, you know, attaining clear skin, having an element of a chronic condition, it doesn't mean that it doesn't resurface for me at times in little bouts. You know, there are things that are triggers. Anyway, so you ask, do I eat grains? Or I'm asking for you, do I eat grains? I do eat grains, but I eat them very consciously, and I eat them based on my energy needs. And I do exercise a lot. So I just kind of take a look at what I'm doing and what I need. And a lot of the times my carbohydrate needs are completely satisfied from carbohydrate-rich vegetables, like some squash, like some sweet potato, like some other potato, because I like all of the potatoes. All my vegetables, all my fruits. Okay, but if I'm really looking to eat a meal with grains, because maybe this meal, the recipe calls for grains, and you know, I really want that particular meal, I just use a gluten-free grain, guys, because the wheat is and has been a problem for me in the past, and I'm not willing to change that at this point in my journey. I don't need to, so I'm okay with it. I'm going to talk about some of those gluten-free grains in part 2 and what they are. Obviously, we all know of rice and corn. There are some things about corn that I want to talk about, because if you're still having issues with your skin, despite all of the other things you need to do, and you eat a lot of corn, it's another thing that could be a problem. But don't freak out. Don't freak out about the corn yet. However, like I always say, nothing is forever. And, you know, no matter what I say, whether it resonates with you or not, You know, you don't, first of all, you don't have to do anything, and you shouldn't do anything just because someone's telling you to do it. You should take it in just as some more information, a little bit more information to have, then you can research it yourself and see what else you find. Because anything that I say, it comes from external resources, okay, that I've collected over the many years, as well as my own personal experiences and experiences that I've had with clients. So I've got to witness their own stories unfolding. So that's one, it's really one thing. And that's what we experience when we go to a doctor too. Doctors are fantastic and they're wonderful, but they don't know everything all in one. They're one person with one education, with one background, with many different stories based on the different patients that they've had. And their patients come from one geological location as well. So there's socioeconomic status, religion, there's all of these little intricacies that go into, creating a person and then the information they have. And so all I'm saying is it's a treasure trove out there. So collect, process, be discerning, and then come back for some more. All right, guys, so thanks for bearing with my 41-minute rant. I knew today was going to be a little bit of a flip-flop because I'm just getting back into this, and I know that I can be a little bit of a jumper and a ranter. So if anything, I hope that today's video was just kind of enjoyable and made you smile and laugh, because I had some bloopers and I'm not erasing them. And also gave you a little bit of an introduction and some excitement in regards to grains. Okay, see you guys later. Stay tuned for grains part 2, where I will discuss exactly what I said a few minutes ago. I'm not going to say it again. Bye!